Welcome. Welcome to Community of Christ with the Shenandoah Congregation in San Antonio, Texas. Community of Christ is a welcoming and loving faith community. We proclaim Jesus Christ and promote communities of joy, hope, love, and peace. Please take a moment and like our video, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss anything, and comment to tell us where you are joining us from. Keep our contact details and share with us how we can minister to your needs. Find more information at www.seaofchristsa.org. If you would like to view past services, follow this link on our website. We welcome you, we acknowledge you, and we love you. Shalom.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here to share with you today. I think you know by now that our theme for today is Heal Our Blindness. And our scripture lesson comes from the 10th chapter of Mark. Now, this story is in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and there are differences in each of the stories. The one that Edna told you, I'm not sure, I don't remember which one that was, but it's not Mark, because the things that I'm going to say will be a little bit different than the version that she read, because there are differences in all three of them. But the one that I'm talking about is the one that's in Mark. And this is where Jesus indeed does heal Bartimaeus as he's going through Jericho. Obviously, Bartimaeus has heard about Jesus, or he wouldn't have done what he did. So he's heard about Jesus and the miracles that he's performed. And so when he was sitting there, as you heard in Edna's version, he could hear that there was something going on in town, that he didn't know what was going on. Couldn't see it, but he could tell with his ears that something was happening. And so Bartimaeus said to someone, "What's happening? What's going on?" And someone said to him, "Jesus of Nazareth is passing through town." And when he heard that, he immediately said, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." The people around him tried to quiet him down, but he would not be quieted. He just got louder instead. "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And Jesus heard his Bartimaeus calling him. And so he stopped and he saw where he was, and he asked them to bring the blind man to him. And when he came to him, he said, "What would you have me do for you?" And Bartimaeus said, "Teacher, heal my blindness. Make me able to see again." And that word "again" has always intrigued me. I have a detail mind. And when I read that word "again," it made me wonder if sometime in the past, Bartimaeus had been able to see and something had happened which took his sight away. I've never found the answer to that question, but it's still in my mind. But when he said to Jesus, "Teacher," "let me see again," Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has made you well." And Mark says immediately his blindness was healed, and he followed after Jesus. So in this version of the story, it was faith that healed his blindness. In the 9th chapter of John, we read another story of a man whose blindness is healed. But this time, when his physical blindness happened to him and he was able to see again, he was also able to see the truth of Jesus, giving him spiritual insight. Jesus, the light of the world, heals physical blindness and also illuminates spiritual understanding. I can identify a little bit with Bartimaeus because in March, after doing some extensive testing, I was declared legally blind. But I'm not legally blind. I don't have any central vision, but I have outer vision, so I can see what's going on outside. Recently, I received some information from macular degeneration in the mail, and I was reading it, and I thought, oh, I should tell my congregation this because people have said to me, I can't believe that you're blind because you get around so well. Well, this is why. Well, first of all, I work pretty hard at trying to act normal, but also, if that's possible, but also, this brochure said this is something that you can do to help people understand what you can see and what you can't see. So I'm going to tell you what it is. This said, take 2 coins, like 2 dimes, 2 small coins, put them up to your eyes like this. And when you do that, look ahead and see what you see. Well, if you do that, you'll get an idea of what I see. And what I see is around the edges. I just don't see what's in front of me. As I stand here, I can't see you. I know you're there, but I cannot see you. Now, we know that Bartimaeus was a beggar. So that probably means that he did not have family support. And that's quite possible because he was blind, because in the culture of that day, if you had a problem, you were kind of an outcast. But I'm not like Bartimaeus. I have lots of support. I have an immediate family, a daughter, a son-in-law, a husband, who are very supportive in helping me heal my blindness. And I have you, my family, my church family, and you don't know it perhaps, but you help heal me all the time. And I want to tell you some of the ways that you heal me. And these are just a few. You do lots of other things that heal my blindness, but I want to at least tell you a few things. You know, when I first came here, I could sit anywhere in the church and see everything. That was 14 years ago. But with the passing of each year, my sight got worse and worse. And I kept moving up closer and closer. And finally, I ended up on the front pew. And then the time came, not too long ago, that even sitting on the front pew, I could not see what was going on up here. And I mentioned that once to the kids as we were going home from church. And Richard said, oh, I have an idea. He said, we have a TV that we don't use. And if I would put that TV up at the back of the church so it wouldn't bother anybody, and you sat on the back pew, do you think you could see what's going on up here? And I said, I don't know until we try it. So the next Sunday I come in and the TV's up there. And so I sat down on the back row, and sure enough, I could see what was happening up here. Now, it's not as good as being at home on Zoom because I have a magnifier on my computer at home. And so that really blows everything up really big. But I can actually see who's up here speaking or reading or whatever they're doing. And if I lean way over, because the TV is in the very next row in front of me, if I lean way over when the words for the hymns are up there, I can actually see the words of the hymns and sing along. If the hymn doesn't go too fast, but if it goes too fast, my eyes can't navigate that fast anymore. But it's just been a wonderful healing for me to be able to be a part of the service. And I much prefer to be here in person so I can interact with you rather than watching on Zoom. But you know, another thing that Richard and Kathleen do is they pick me up every Sunday and bring me to church so I can actually be here, because I haven't been able to drive for about 8 or 9 years now. And that took some real adjustment. I know nobody else has had to deal with that yet, but when the time comes when you can't drive a car anymore, it changes your life. It makes you feel a little isolated. And it does isolate you because you can't go anywhere unless somebody comes to get you. So I appreciate the fact that Richard and Kathleen, one or the other or both of them, come and get me on Sunday morning. But you know, since they have an empty nest now, no kids at home, they seem to be on the go a little more often than they used to be. They were just in Hawaii just not very long ago, and now they're off having another little vacation this weekend. And so when they are gone, guess what? Edna Workman comes to get me. And Edna had to bring me today because Richard and Kathleen are off partying this weekend. And so I appreciate Edna for coming to do that. And she is healing my blindness. But that's not all that Edna does. Edna also comes on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month and picks me up at my house and brings me to church. It was a lot simpler when we were meeting in my house during the pandemic and when we had the school here, because I was at my house. And so everybody came to my house. So I didn't have to go anywhere. But now, since we're back in the church, I have to have transportation. And so I truly appreciate the fact that Edna comes to get me and brings me to Crafty Ladies so I can still be a part of that. Another thing that happens with Crafty Ladies is Ruth also heals my blindness, because almost every time for a long time, Ruth has been sitting right beside me and I can no longer thread a needle. There's no way I can do that anymore. And she always threads my needle so I can get started sewing on the blankets. And something else that Kathleen and Richard have done for me to help heal my blindness, a couple of years ago now, probably for Christmas one year, they gave me a magnifying glass. And it's about the size of a paper. And it's on a stand. And it also has a light which shines down where you have to put something. And so I bring that to Crafty Ladies every time. And that makes it possible for me to keep seeing how I can sew, because I can slide my sewing underneath that magnifying glass and tell where I need to start my stitches. And so that's another way that they are healing me. Someone else that's doing something that heals me, that probably doesn't think about it being a healing process for me, is Kelly. As with the passing of time, I'm finding it hard to see at potlucks what the food is in the dishes. And very often I'm walking through the line and all of a sudden I realize Kelly is next to me. And Kelly is there to help heal my blindness, because she will tell me what the foods are in the dishes. Sometimes I have trouble getting them out depending on what the food is. And if I'm having trouble getting them out and not so I don't make a mess, then she will take the food out and put it on the plate for me. And the other important thing that she does is she will go get my drink, because I can't see when I get to the top of the cups. And it's very easy for me to make a real mess. And so she fills up my cup so that I don't have to do that and embarrass myself and make a mess. And so Kelly helps to heal me all the time by doing that thing for me, those things, helping me through the potluck line. And I have to appreciate that. Patty Walker was probably one of the first persons who became aware of how much I was struggling trying to read, because she started sending me emails, but in huge print. And that has been such a help, because I don't have to deal with trying to get a magnifying glass and see that, because even when things come to me on the computer that aren't in larger print, I have some issues with that. So that's another way that my blindness is being healed. The amazing thing is that I've never asked any of those people to do any of those things. They just sense a need that I have, and they respond to that need. And I truly, truly appreciate that. Of course, my husband gets to carry the lion's share of helping to heal my blindness by helping me at home. And interestingly enough, he's having to learn to do some things that he's never done before. In a marriage, we've been married 60 years, and there are just some things that I've always done that he's never done, and vice versa. He does some things that I've never done. Like I've always handled our finances and done all of the financial work, and he always took care of the yard. Well, he can't do that anymore because he was falling too much. So we have a man who mows our yard now. But he's having to learn to deal with finances. And that's not an easy trick for a man that's 86 years old. and who also has some memory issues. And so it's really tough, but he is trying. You know, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but I'm telling you, you can teach an 86-year-old new tricks. He can do it, and he's really stepping up and helping me so that I can deal with that. There's one more thing that I should tell you about. When I was first told that I was legally blind, my low vision specialist referred me to an agency that has a really long name. I'm going to call it Workforce because that's what they call themselves for short. And so Workforce is an agency whose goal is to keep people who are blind independent as long as they possibly can be. And so they have all kinds of wonderful little devices that have been created for blind people to help you stay independent at home. Now, when she told me about that, she was referring me to this agent. She said, now, this is a state and federally funded program. And so, you know, nothing's going to happen fast because the government doesn't work fast on anything. And so she said, you'll just have to have patience. It's probably 8 weeks, you'll hear something. And exactly in 8 weeks, the caseworker called me and said, I have your name and I need to come to your house and evaluate you. And so he did. He came and he said, okay, now I know the kinds of things that you need. And when I saw my low vision specialist, when she told me that I was legally blind, she made a whole list of things that she said that she had in her office that she showed me. And she said that I needed those and she would forward those to Workforce. And sure enough, it took a long time, but just a couple or 3 weeks ago, it's been 6 months since I started this process with them. But just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I opened the door one day and here were 2 boxes on my front porch. And I thought, what in the world is this? I didn't order anything. And I brought them in, and they were from the Center for Independent Living in New York City, which obviously are connected with Workforce. And I opened them up, and it was like Christmas. Oh, my goodness. There were all of these little devices, and most of these had to do with things that make cooking easier. You know, when you can't see what's in front of you, cooking gets to be a challenge. And so I was so excited to get all of these little things. And I'll just tell you about 2 of them fast. There's a little device in there that solves my glass drinking problem. You put it on the edge of the glass. There are 3 different settings, high, medium, low. And you put that on the edge of your glass, stick your glass under there. And when it beeps at you, it's time to stop. Isn't that amazing? Now, I had figured out a method at home because I'd finally got to the place that I would just use the same glass all the time. And I figured out if I would count from 1 to 15, when I got to 15, it was time to stop. Now I don't have to remember to do that. I can just put this little gadget on my glass, stick it under there, and wait till I hear it beep and stop. So that's wonderful. And another thing, thinking about what Richard has done, putting the TV up in the back for me, I have something that's called binocular glasses. I tried them out last Sunday for the first time because I just got them. And I don't know if anybody saw them because I was clear at the back and I didn't have them on when church was over. But you put them on, they're like glasses, only they have binoculars with frames. And you can adjust each eye so that you can see, make your eye, if your eyes have different visions. And they magnify things. And when I was sitting, usually when I'm sitting back in the back, I would have to lean forward to see the TV that Richard puts up for me. But I discovered that I could actually just sit back, put these glasses on, and I could see the screen and everything got bigger and clearer for me. And now, you know, usually when I would have to lean way over to see the lyrics of the hymns, now I can just lean over a little bit and they become very clear and I can sing along. So it's all of those are ways that I am being healed every day. And I am so thankful to all of you for what you do to heal my blindness. But there are other kinds of blindness other than physical blindness. And if we are all honest with ourselves, we are probably all blind about some things. We either don't see or we choose not to see things around us that we could do that would make life better for others. I want to tell you about a man who lives in San Antonio who saw a need and he did something about it. Lots of times we can see something that needs to be done. We say, somebody needs to do something about that. Yeah. Well, the somebody was him. He didn't just think about doing this, or he didn't just talk about doing it. He has done it over and over and over. He has done wonderful things in this town. He's what I call a doer, and he's been a doer all of his life. At the age of 15, he started his own landscaping business. And then at 19, and this is really beyond my comprehension, at 19 years old, he started a home construction business in San Antonio. I just can't imagine at 19 having the knowledge and the ability to do that. He's a lot smarter man than I. At 19, no way. Absolutely not. But he has done some wonderful things, and I want to tell you a little bit about him. When he was building his houses, he didn't build them all alike or on the same level of houses. And I think this is remarkable for a young man starting in business. He built some larger houses, but he also built small houses that low-income and moderate-income people could afford to buy. And I just think that's marvelous that he had that kind of thought in his head when he was that young to do that. He ran that business until 2005. And then at 2005, he sold the business and he established the Gordon Hartman Family Foundation. Perhaps you've heard that name, those of you who have lived in San Antonio for years. I didn't know about him until recently. He has a daughter who has special needs. Her name is Morgan. I don't know if you've seen her or not, but I remember last Christmas, there was a little blurb on television and she was singing a Christmas carol. But she has some pretty severe special needs. And they were on a family vacation once, and they were in a hotel, and the hotel had a pool. And so Morgan wanted to go play in the pool. And when they got there were lots of kids playing in the pool. And so Morgan got in the pool and went over to interact with the other children. And immediately those other children got out of the pool and disappeared. They did not want to be around her. She was different. That was the main thing that brought him back to town to start down a new path for Dad, Gordon Hartman. That was a terrible thing to happen to a little girl. And so he decided that he was going to come back to town and he was going to he thought people with special needs should have a place that they can go and play together and have fun without the stigma of their disability. And so that's exactly what he did. He came back and started making plans for Morgan's Wonderland. I imagine you've all heard about that. And that's the first special needs accessible theme park that's been built for people with special needs in the country. And it's right here in San Antonio. But that's not all. He didn't just build Morgan's Wonderland. Next, he built a water park. And this water park is amazing. It has waterproof wheelchairs, and the wheelchairs have little motors on them, and people can just zoom all around in the water park and have a great time together in those wheelchairs. Amazing, just amazing. And not only did he build a water park, but he also built a sport park, and kids can go there and play together and have a great time. But that's not all. He just keeps doing. I told you he was a doer. He is truly a doer. The next project that he came up was he decided that he needed to build a medical facility because people with special needs often have to see a lot of different specialists during their lifetime. Well, then you have to go here and then you have to go somewhere else in town and somewhere else to see all these different specialists. Well, he decided he could build a medical facility and make that medical facility one that would house a lot of different specialists. So people with special needs could go to one place, see a bunch of different specialists that they need to see, and not have to be running all over town to do that. And I think that's a wonderful idea that he has done. But he's not finished yet. There's still another project that he's working on right now. Now he's working on building a hotel, and he's going to call this Morgan's Hotel. And this is the reason that he's doing that. People come from all over the country to visit Morgan's Wonderland. And as people have come here and he's around to visit and visit with them as they come to visit his places, they have said to him, we have a terrible time finding hotel rooms that will accommodate our special needs. You know, most hotels and motels have like one or two what they call handicap rooms, and they're really not really accessible. There have been some minor things done to make them more accessible, but they're not truly accessible. But Mr. Hartman is building this hotel, and every room in the hotel is going to be ultra accessible for meeting the needs of all the special needs that people have. And I think that is a major, major thing. And interestingly enough, I have read that there are 3 of the major hotel chains in the country who are now consulting with Gordon Hartman to see how they can improve their handicap rooms to make them more accessible for people with special needs. He's just an amazing man in my book. But he doesn't just limit his help to people with special needs. I have read numerous accounts of things that he has done for other people in our community who have run into a hard place in their lives and they're having a difficult time. And he's heard about them and he goes and says, what can I do to help you? And he has helped get them back on their feet. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Amazing, amazing man. Whenever he hears about a need, he seems to step up and do something about it. I think he's a wonderful example of a wealthy man who's using his wealth in a way to help make the life of other people better. And lots of times the people he's helping are people that are often ignored in our society. He chooses not to be blind to the needs that he sees. He's indeed an agent for change. But if we are really honest with ourselves, we are also blind about the needs of people in other parts of the world. As we sit here in the comfort of our sanctuary, it's hard to believe the kinds of poverty and hunger that exist in some parts of this world that we get to live in. A few weeks ago, I read to you an African folk tale called Nobia's Well. I don't know if any of you were here to hear that story that day. But in this story, it was the women of the culture who would have to walk miles a day to go get clean water for their families to use. And they had to do that every day. And in this story, if you were here, you heard that Nobia's mother was very ill one morning and she had to get up and she couldn't get out of bed to go. And so she told Nobia that he was going to have to go get the water that day. And he was a young boy at that time. And that was a difficult task for him. And you know how the rest of the story goes if you were here. But let me tell you, that's not just a folktale. That's reality for many people in our world. They can't just go into their house and turn on a faucet and water comes pouring out the way that we can do. As a church, we choose not to ignore needs in the world. One of our enduring principles is to abolish poverty and end suffering. Our world church has been doing projects this last year to abolish poverty and end suffering. And I want to tell you about some of those because I'm not sure that we really know if you hear a lot about that. But I can't tell you all the things that we've done, but there are some wonderful things that our world church is doing. And the reason that they can do that is because we donate through our World Church mission ties, and that helps to fund the programs that they are doing to abolish poverty and end suffering in other parts of the world. And let me just recite just a few of those. We are, and we have been doing for a good number of years now, supporting existing educational opportunities for children in both Haiti and India. And we do that in conjunction with Outreach International. I hope you all know about Outreach International. You know, they're the organization, I've talked about them before, that use the PhD method. That's participatory human development. You know, lots of agencies will go into a community and they'll say, we're here to make your life better, and this is what we're going to do. That's not how outreach operates. They go somewhere and they say, tell us what your needs are. And then they set about trying to meet those needs and teaching them how they can continue to meet those needs on their own so that they can become independent. I just can't say enough good words about Outreach International. But we have also supported Bread for the World, which is a Christian agency who's trying to change policies that will combat world hunger. We have also supported projects to bring clean drinking water into communities where we have congregations nearby in several nations in Africa. And I think that's an amazing thing that we're able to do. There are also projects in which we're helping women in some countries get small businesses started so that they have a way to support themselves and have a steady income through their small businesses. And that's a great deal of help. Another project it has involved making benches for schools. And they put these benches in the school to make the learning environment more comfortable for the boys and girls as they are studying, because there haven't been those things available for them. Our compassionate actions transcend the confines of nationality and culture as we embody our oneness in Christ. We stand together with our brothers and sisters, extending help to those in need. This is how we can heal the blindness, some of the blindness in the world. I have one last comment to make. Election day is almost here. Perhaps you've already voted, I have. But if you have not voted, I do hope that you will take the time to study what the different people at all of our levels of government are standing for, so that when you go into the voting booth, you don't go in blindly. Go in armed with knowledge so that you know that the people that you are voting for are going to give you the kind of country that you want to have. So I urge you to vote. And when you vote, as you vote, I want you to think about these questions. See, I think our enduring principles as a church that we have are a good standard to use when judging who you want to be the leaders of our world in the future. So ask yourself these questions about the people who are running for office and see if that will guide your vote. Ask yourself, do they stand for grace and generosity? Do they believe in the sacredness of creation? Do they believe in the worth of all persons? Do they make responsible choices? Do they pursue peace? Do they believe in unity and diversity? Do they believe in the blessings of community? Make your voice heard. Vote, and maybe we can heal some of the blindness that exists in our country.